Oh,
It's fine. It typically
okay.
takes people a minute to get here, so
Okay.
don't don't you worry your
Don't
little
you
head.
worry about me. Don't,
Plus, I'm gonna do
don't
a little
you.
bit of troubleshooting, making sure that they
We're
can.
speaking and
Well, I mean, it's coming up on my end and I can see it, but I just want to make sure that they're able to hear us clearly, and they're not having any issues with anything. But
okay.
all they need is to be able to see us, and they should be fine. So I'll give them time. But I am streaming on a Wednesday, so
Mm,
I doubt anybody really makes it here.
okay. It's saying publish. I'm supposed to be going live.
I mean, you can. I don't know.
It says I can boost it, but let me boost it after. Hey.
Nessa. Hi, Nessa. Hi,
uh,
Kimberly. Yeah. Oh boy, what's happening now?
ah.
Yeah. Also, let me know um, if the mic is peaking, if it's too loud. Just like let me know. And that way I can adjust it. Because it's been a while since I've done a stream where it's just um, verbal audio and no background noise or no music or gameplay or anything like that. But basically, to explain, this is I'm literally dressed from work. This is just yeah, but thank you, Kimberly. Yeah, I'm just dressed from work. So this is what I wear to work.
Sorry, I'm still prepping.
Yeah. So let me see. It looks like my mic is peaking on my end. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take it down just a little bit, in case we want to try to make sure you guys are hearing us. Thank you, Nessa. I do typically like to at least dress up from time to time, but it is nice that I have a job that kind of makes me, um, you know, look presentable on a day to day. Because if a job you're just working at a warehouse, you probably wouldn't feel compelled to really just stay cleaned up and things of that nature. But I have meetings all the time, so I kind of have to make sure that I'm, not just on the hygiene side, which that's you just take care of yourself naturally do that, but like shaving and taking care of your hair and all of that extra stuff, you just kind of want to make sure you're doing that so you don't, go in and not look your best. But oh, that's cool.
I'm trying to get some people in
You
that.
get to see a lot of concerts, Kimberly. I'm happy for you. Sounds fun.
Let me get Mary in here.
Yeah, hit all of your yeah, all of your people that you want to tag. And so my mom is setting up so she can go live on her platform. She has a following on Facebook. My following typically tends to be I don't have a social media following outside of like YouTube. So um, I typically go live to talk about things here,
Oh, she's already
and
tagged.
and yeah, so that way I can reach more people on the
So
platform that I'm more familiar with
I'm
anyway.
actually tagging the people who showed interest in the show.
Yeah, make sure you hit Matthew too. 'Cause,
Matthew Deck.
yeah, he was on my page, showing interest. He was the only one who commented when I shared it.
Okay.
Which that just goes to show, like I share the stuff on my page, and a couple people like it, and one person comments like, "Hey, I'm interested," but for hers, she'll have dozens of comments, where people are showing interest and trying to talk about this kind of thing. So I'll probably wait to just do the explainer until a little bit closer to when she goes live. That way I don't have to explain it two and three times. But to keep it short, it's just basically about the rollbacking of DEI initiatives and affirmative action and the Equal Employment Opportunities Act and things of that nature. So we're just discussing that, what it is, why it's important, and how it affects people.
What it means, you
Yeah, and
know?
what it means.
I think a
So
lot of people are like, what does it even mean?
yeah, because the term DEI gets thrown around the same way the term woke gets thrown around, right?
Correct.
A lot of people don't know what woke actually means, and so
And
it's
it's
like,
really annoying.
yeah,
But the thing about woke is you can't be woke if you were never asleep. You know what I mean? Like they're like the woke, and it's just like we're not woke. We were never asleep. You
Well,
know?
I mean, it's the that applies to people who the woke movement came from people who started to be enlightened. It was like so that's what it was for us. It wasn't really ever being woke. It was just like just us advocating for the things we've been advocating for.
Yes.
But for people who were in other communities, especially white communities, who weren't aware of stuff until George Floyd got murdered in front of them, that
Yes.
was like, oh, I'm aware. My eyes have been opened. I am woke now. That kind of thing. So it kind of is like that, where it's like you just become aware of a thing, and now that's they were fighting against that. Now it's DEI. It's every new thing that they can be mad about that is relating to equality, and that's really just what it is. So this is just sort of an explainer that I'm trying to do.
Right, and then we're going to come back with an expert in human resources, and she's going to give you a breakdown of like what is going to be happening with the rollout of this
Right, right.
um Joshua. So bear with me, guys. Sorry, I know it's late too.
No, well, for the YouTube audience, I typically do stream this late. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, like this like they'll be here hanging out with me until about midnight. Because it's typically if I'm streaming, like if I stream on a Thursday or something like that, if I did decide to stream tonight, this will be the time that I would go live anyway, and I'd probably get off at around 11:30. So this isn't really abnormal for you guys. It's just that I didn't really have too much time to really put a lot of prep into this, which I would have liked to. I could have made an announcement yesterday that I was going to be talking about this, but I honestly didn't even think I was going to be going live on YouTube. I thought I was just going to be going live on her platform. So it's just a thing that I hadn't really considered until it was time. So maybe, I'd like to probably just do this in the future to where we do consider it like
What the
that.
crap is going on, man? This It's been a long time. We used to actually do this a lot,
Yeah.
and it's been a long time since we've done this. So it's kind of like this is going to be our first show back. So it's kind of like a crash pilot, and I had to do taxes because I'm too turned up. So yeah, this is kind of just starting over for us as far as what this looks like, you know, getting in here and getting logged in. So the next time we come on, when I don't do taxes, it'll be better.
Well, we'll be a little earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe just a tad bit more prepared. I mean, even on my end, I wasn't as prepared. Um, oh, no, Kimberly, this isn't about the TikTok thing.
But I
Um,
mean, we could touch base on that. But
yeah, the TikTok thing is actually fairly simple. Um, DEI isn't related to. That's part of the reason we're doing this is to explain what DEI means and what it's about. Um, and this is for a lot of people who I have been engaged in politics and probably have been a little concerned about what's going on. But the TikTok thing, really simple from start to finish. Basically, all it is that initially Trump was advocating to ban TikTok because he considered it a national security threat because of the data that was being shared from Americans to the Chinese government, and they were using that data to sell us stuff and monitor, our interests. And so it was some nationalist type thing. So what happened was a lot of people bought into that and was like, oh wow, Trump is going to ban it. He didn't. He tried to, failed. Now, when he came back, he said he was going to, kind of did, and then started advocating that TikTok shouldn't be banned. And then when it wasn't banned, when it banned and then they brought it back, it was basically a way for them to kiss Trump's behind and say, thank you, President Trump, for saving TikTok, even though Trump was the one who banned it. So
we'll
it
call
was,
for the ban.
yeah, no, it was his administration that was working on the ban, and then
Right.
he got in and then banned it.
Yes.
And then so it was Trump who banned TikTok, and then it was Trump who unbanned it.
Yes.
So it was that whole thing that it was just like, and it was only banned for about 12 hours. I don't even think it was banned for a full 24 hours. And yeah, so once it was banned, he unbanned it. They probably signed some checks. A couple people probably got paid, and it was unbanned. And that's why you saw the message when TikTok came back saying, "Thank you, President Trump, for being our Lord and Savior and sacrificing your one and only beloved forgotten son." Yeah. So
Okay, I'm about to be done. Let me Tatiana.
exactly, Nessa. Exactly. That's literally exactly. Amen. Jesus. Amen. Yep. That's how it is. Yeah, he started all the TikTok stuff, started all the drama about it, and started the movement to ban it, and then saved it from the ban that he started. Like it's just comedy. But a lot of people did not know that, so a lot of people were thanking Trump, praising Trump, like, yeah, Trump saved TikTok. You dummy! Trump put TikTok in danger. It's like you can't throw somebody in a river and then they can't swim and then jump out and then save them and be like, look, I saved him, my guy, you put him in danger. Like, so it just is crazy.
Yeah.
The DEI stuff impacts my entire household. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Hey, you're looking good that you have somebody who can probably advocate on your behalf with that.
Okay. So I have my thing going live now.
It's
I,
working.
I, I, I guess I don't
It
know.
looks good.
I
You can
know,
turn it
but
a
I'm
little bit
like,
this way.
where do we see the comments? Because I
No
need to be
comments
able
yet.
to. Okay, cool. All right. So, hello everyone. It's been a long time. I'm Tasha Neal Harris, and this is, of course, my son.
Hi, friends.
What's your name, man?
I'm Daquan. D to the A to the no, I'm playing. Daquan Neal, and yeah, I'm her
Yeah.
son.
So we do these shows to try to inform you guys of different topics that are going on that impact our communities, and sometimes we do things that just impact us as a human species. So it's the Tasha Neal Show. Well, I'm going to rename that because really, I think this needs to be his platform, his voice.
No platforms over here.
Okay, this is true because
Yeah.
we got two platforms going
We're
on.
streaming on multiple
But
platforms.
today,
Rather.
I'm just going to keep it really brief. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about DEI. We're going to talk about the ban on DEI, what that looks like, what does it mean, what does it mean for you, what does it mean for our community, is there any way that we can combat it? We're going to discuss it today, and then next week we're going to actually have a human resource specialist come on and talk about how in human resources, she's been in human resources for the last 25 years. She's going to talk about how this rollout is going to impact people like her who are in the human resource department.
Mm-hmm.
But right now I did some interviews with her, and she kind of told me a little bit about it, and then I did some research of my own about what that looks like. First of all, what is DEI?
So, DI is just an acronym. It just stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's literally just it. It's just diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay.
So when you're talking about DEI, you're just saying that most of the time you'll hear DEI followed by initiative or program. So all that is just saying I have an initiative, I have a program that is advocating for equal opportunities for everybody. Now, DEI includes everyone who typically is from a marginalized community. So this includes LGBTQ, this includes disabled people, whether it be physical or mental disabilities. This is people from marginalized groups. So basically, it's very similar to what affirmative rights or the Civil Rights Act, things of that nature. It makes it to where instead of on those actual acts which ingrain civil rights for people, the DEIs are more like initiatives and pushing and advocating for people to actually get and enforce, the equal employment opportunities that they should have. So this is saying, even though we have civil law saying you can't discriminate against people, you now have people who are in advocacy groups from, who get federal grants to go in and make sure that companies are actually going and hiring people and saying, hey, your company has 100 employees and 99 of them are white men. What's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so now that's what's going on, is that when you have DEI program, that's all that is that it's mainly advocacy, but there are actual grants given to federal agencies to go in and make sure that people are not being discriminated against for their race, sex, creed, gender, sexual orientation, or anything, or disabilities, or anything of the like.
Okay. So, with that being said, um, one of the things that the human resource coordinator, well, director, because she's a director, one of the things that she wanted to make sure that you guys understood is that when they call these programs, she said that they're programs, but she likes to look at them as strategies, right? These are strategies to make sure that, um, what would they say, that we have a seat at the table,
Yeah.
right? And then another good point that she made that was powerful, and I hate to make her points for her because I am going to bring her on next week.
Yeah.
But she said that when you say diversity, right,
Mm-hmm.
and then you say a DEI hire,
Mm-hmm.
most people see it as a DEI hire is, oh, I'm getting rid of these brown people. Let's keep it 100.
Yeah.
Right? Let's get rid of these DEI hires.
DEI is the new black.
It's the new black, right?
We switched black.
It's the new slang.
Well, you switch black. We switched black in like 5 years. We went from black, and then we went from woke, and then we went to DEI. We switched really fast. Like,
so the thing that the thing about this is the war on it with the wokeness. So DEI is as he said, when she said, when you hire a white man, he is a DEI because he is part of what makes the community, the workforce diverse. You know what I mean? So technically you are a diverse hire yourself.
Not necessarily though. I don't fully agree with that point, but
that is when she said that, because diversity comes with meaning that there is a now the DEI program was created. It is kind of a branch of the civil rights movement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's from the 60s, right?
Yeah.
So we have evolved and to make sure that this was something when we started coming into the workforce, women, white women, y'all too, y'all are included as DEI hires while you're playing. So when you come into when you come into the workforce as a white woman,
Kimberly.
You know, we had to make sure that they were adhering to this. Now, when they started doing research, companies started seeing that DEI programs, because first white dudes was getting mad about these programs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They were getting mad because they were like, don't tell us who we have to hire.
Right.
We don't want to be told that we have to hire Negroes. We don't want to be told that we have to hire women. Right? We don't tell us who we can and cannot hire. So as the civil rights movement came into play, they were like, well, so there's a difference between DEI, and so even though they're getting rid of the DEI programs, you still can bring forth a discrimination lawsuit. So that's one of the things that I want to make clear. They're getting rid of the DEI programs, which is really what they're trying to do, is get rid of what he said, the training, hiring people who are making sure that we're represented. They're going out in our communities and they're saying, hey, you can't find because they were saying they can't find the qualified women, they can't find the qualified Hispanics, they can't find the qualified blacks. So what they would do is they would hire someone like a Daquan or myself who knows how to go out and seek these people out. We know what's in our community. We know what to look for. So we just kind of go in there and we steer them in the direction of getting the best qualified candidates, not just a black candidate for the job or the best, just any woman. And this is what they're trying to get rid of it on. They're saying that they are now filling these positions with merit-based.
Right.
Which is the best candidate for the position, which I don't know how he gonna say that, because none of his people that he's put in positions are the best qualified candidate. They're just the best butt lickers. So I don't. But everything that he does is hypocritical anyway.
Yeah,
Um,
it's never about what they say it's about. You know, you can say merit based, but there's so many problems with it because one of the main things about it is that you can call it merit based, but calling it merit based is that's the dog whistle, right? Because basically what you're saying is that because we are hiring people who come from diverse backgrounds, we are now hiring less qualified people. You see what I'm saying? So that's immediately what it becomes, is saying you're now saying that people from diverse backgrounds are just automatically less qualified. So when you're saying that you're going to stop hiring people from different backgrounds, and the only backgrounds that are excluded from diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives are typically white men. And the reason why that is, and so when they say this right, they say that DEI is discriminatory against white men, right? But the best way you can explain is you always have to try to dumb something down or simplify something. So if I give you, if I give you 10 pieces of candy, and then everybody else in the room has 2 pieces of candy. And then I'm the teacher and I say, you know what? This doesn't seem right. Let me go ahead and give everybody else in here another 8 pieces of candy so y'all all have 10 pieces of candy. But the first student who had 10 pieces of candy is now saying, well, what about me? Where my extra 8 pieces of candy at? But now you're sitting here, you're saying, well, it wasn't about you. It was never about you. It was equaling and leveling the playing field because you never needed an initiative. So the reason why you're upset that other people have an initiative, you're saying it's the same argument. Be like, what about White History Month? You never needed one. You see what I'm saying?
But you
You
can't.
never
But you
ever
can't
need
really.
one because you were never in a position where your history was erased or it was silenced. You were never in that position. So when you're saying we're now less qualified or we're not hiring based off of merit, we're hiring and
Mary?
discriminating off of the color of your skin, and it's like that is exactly the opposite of what DEI initiatives and what the affirmative action was supposed to do. It's supposed to prevent you from doing that, but because the majority of people who are in power, who
Are
happen to
white
be white
men.
men, they felt discriminated against because they were like, we're not having all the power,
They did
all
it.
the positions.
Yes, they didn't feel discriminated against. That's false. They didn't feel discriminated against. They felt like their power
Which,
was
yes, in their
being
eyes,
taken.
yes,
Which is
because
not discrimination.
it's not,
right?
it's not, but in their eyes, when you're used to privilege and it's taken from you, that's discrimination.
I'm glad that you said
you see what I'm saying?
privilege.
So it's like, yeah,
I'm glad
that's
you
all it
said
is.
privilege because what I did was I went on the U.S. the U.S. website, and first of all,
Rightness.
so first of all, one of the things that they did is they've done this on a federal level, right? They have not yet implemented it or put it into public corporations.
It is in the private sector right now.
It is not. It is not.
So it's from what I've seen, it is not actually enforced in the private sector right now.
Listen to what we're telling you.
It is. You're right. It is not enforced.
It is not.
But what it is you go ahead and tell it because I do know what you're saying.
But you have companies who's already like, nah, you ain't got to enforce it. We already just gonna go on ahead and step on out, right?
Yep.
So they're just like, we coming for you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? This is about to be the law of the land.
Yep.
And companies this is what blew my mind because I thought that this was already mandated.
No.
And it is not.
At least not in the private sector.
It's not in the private sector, but in the federal sector, it is. And in the schools, it is.
Because a lot of schools
are federally funded. Right? So in the schools, wait till I read you this list of things that you cannot say anymore. But what's so crazy about it is because the places like Target, you know what I mean, was the first, and Walmart was the first to be like, we out. You know what I mean? Like, we're getting rid of these programs, right? So this is not even mandated yet, and they're already backtracking. Like, nah, we're good. Yeah. We're gonna go ahead and step out. Right?
This is a thing, right? So this is something I found out earlier this morning when I was trying to really dig into exactly who this was focused on, who's affected by it. So what's going on is that what they did right now on the federal level on the public sector is part of what this is all part of. This the shock and awe, but this is the intimidation tactic. It is used in the public sector to be an intimidation factor. And what I found out earlier is that there are 9 companies that they're waiting basically to see. They're going to make an example out of 9 companies.
Hmm.
And so that's really what it comes down to, is that this was the scare tactic, and they're going to launch an investigation into those 9 companies to see if they're still implementing DEI initiatives. And then they're going to discuss what punishment is going to follow for those 9 companies. And the punishment for them, they already have said this. This is part of the Trump administration's plan, is to say which of these 9 companies are still doing it after we did our scare tactic on the public sector.
Yes.
Which of these 9 companies in the private sector did not bend the knee? Which one of these did not say, "Oh, that could be us. He might come for us"? Which one of them said, "Oh, bet I know I ain't doing that. I'm keeping my D9 initiatives. Diversity is important." Which of y'all are still having it? We are going to make an example out of you.
It's $1,000.
That's what
It's
it is.
$1,000 a day fine for every day they do not do away.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one of the penalties. $1,000 a day for a company that does not do away with their DEI initiatives. So this to not pull no punches. This is white supremacy.
Oh,
I'm not even going to. This is white supremacy out loud.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not gonna candy coat it. It's white supremacy out loud, right? So they're taking off their hoods. It's literally like
no, okay, really not yet.
It's the KKK, and they took their hoods off. I'm sorry, that's just
get
what
your
it
pen
is.
and your paper.
So what they and I was just like, let me look into this a little deeper before I, you know what I mean, jump right in. And I was like, oh, this is hoods off, right? So
are companies taking out race/sex on? They're not. They're not, because basically that doesn't necessarily that's
I've
not
got it right here.
You got it there. Okay,
I got
I was
it
gonna
right
say
here.
I'm like, it's
I have
not
it right
exactly
here.
like
I have
that.
it right here, Mary.
It just makes it to where if you sign and check the right or wrong box, they are now allowed to basically just.
So this is an amendment to the Civil Rights Act. They're going back to 1964, and they're using this as an amendment on the Civil Rights Act.
They're going back further than that too.
Well,
but that's what the I'm trying to give Trump 3 terms thing. That's going way back to the
Okay, so what is prohibited? What is going to be prohibited is this: discriminating. You cannot say this anymore in your companies. Discriminating for or against any person on the basis of race, color, ethnicity, religion, biological sex, or national origin. You can no longer say that. You also you cannot say requiring as a condition of employment, as a condition for promotion or advancement, or a condition for speaking, making a presentation, or submitting written materials that an employee undergo training, education, or coursework or other materials that asserts that a particular race, color, ethnicity, religion, biological sex, or national origin is inherently, get this, is inherently or systematically superior or inferior, oppressive or oppressed, or privileged or unprivileged. So then here's the final one. You're not allowed to say any of that in your workplace. Requiring as a condition of employment, as a condition for promotion or advancement, or as a condition for speaking, making a presentation, or submitting written materials, the signing of or assent to a statement, code of conduct, work program, or plan, or similar device that requires assent by the employee that a particular race, color, ethnicity, religion, biological sex, or national origin is inherently or systematically superior or inferior, oppressive or oppressed, or privileged or unprivileged. So basically, you're just saying that no of these groups of people have been oppressed. You are not allowed to say that in the workplace anymore. You are not allowed to teach history
hey, we
in
can't
the
talk
workplace.
About the 60s, the 40s, the 50s, Jim Crow. We can't talk about none.
You can't talk about none of that in the workplace. You cannot say that someone is privileged, right? Now, in the schools, you're not allowed to teach about diversity, equity, inclusion, critical theory relating to race, gender, or otherwise, or intersectionality. You cannot talk about this stuff anymore. So they want to silence history. So what do they say? If you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it. This is on their website. Print it right off of their website.
Exactly.
These are things that you cannot do in schools, colleges, anything, any place that is federally funded. These are banned immediately.
Yeah.
That was an executive order. These are banned immediately. Yeah. So basically, what can you talk about? You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, it'll go back to how it was similar to when we were first in school, and it was Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, and it'll just be that.
So we have to be silent about everything, so we don't hurt fragile white men's egos. What it boils down to, and I hate to say that because you know what I mean. I hate to say that because, but that is really what it's boiling down to. Yeah. So, one, because I know a lot of you. We all have ADD now. We don't want to stay on here too long. What is we already discussed what it is. You know what I mean? Yeah. What is DEI? Yeah. It is diversity. Diverse. It is inclusion. It is equity. Means that we want everybody to be equitable.
I got the actual. I did this earlier. I have the full breakdowns of.
But that does not mean that you cannot file a lawsuit for discrimination. So that did not go away. But it's hard to prove.
And that's the problem is because
it's hard to prove.
This is one thing, but it attaches itself to another thing when he rolled back the protections in the 1965 Equal Employment Opportunity Act.
Make America great again.
But that is where even if you wanted to take a lawsuit, you can't now, because that Equal Employment Opportunity Act was the thing that literally made it to where you can't discriminate against somebody in the hiring process. That was Lyndon B. Johnson, 1965.
Yes.
That was, you cannot legally discriminate against someone about their race, creed, sexual orientation, or gender, or their disability. He rolled that back.
He rolled it back.
He rolled that back. So
and amended it.
So the idea of taking a lawsuit, if you felt discriminated against, you won't have a standing because that protection is not in place anymore.
Right.
So if you felt like you were discriminated against because you were a woman, and this is a thing, they are allowed to legally discriminate. If you're a pregnant woman, it's raps. You can't. They can just straight up say, no, we're not gonna hire you. So that protection is not in place anymore. He rolled that back. So that's just another thing where it's like, yeah, you had one protection, and that was on the federal level, but he had that one executive order that banned DEI. Then he had the other one that rolled back protections on that. There's been a slurry of executive orders, a record-setting set of executive orders. And that is part of what is called the shock and awe tactic.
Yes.
That is, now I'm going to tell you exactly, this shock and awe tactic is meant to basically, it is something that authoritarians, dictators do. You come in.
What is it? First of all, explain to them what authority is.
That's what I'm doing is you come in and you overwhelm the system, and you overwhelm the constituents, you overwhelm the citizens and the populace with an overwhelming amount of force in legislation,
Mary, I'm gonna answer your question
and things of that nature. You overwhelm them with things that they might be considered outrageous, outlandish, or too far. You overwhelm them, and two things happen. One thing happens is you only need to do a certain amount of that thing before the rest of the dominoes fall. Similar to what's happening now with the DEI initiatives. You only have to do it on the public sector. Then the private sector will bend the knee, and you don't even have to put another executive order that affects them.
Well, they said that was one of their tactics, right? In the project
2025,
they said that was one of their tactics. We're going to make an example of these people, and then everybody else will fall in line. Exactly. This is not.
They said that they were going to do that, and they already said that what they were going to do is when they go in and they start firing federal employees to replace them based off
loyalists,
of not merit, but their loyalty to Trump. They have this. It's
actually in it. It says loyal.
It is loyalty.
It says
they want you loyal. And this is another thing that the press secretary just admitted and was saying that if you are against Trump's agenda, then you're subject to termination. So this is about loyalty, not merit. They're saying it's merit based, but it's loyalty based. So they go in, they overwhelm you with the shock and awe, and then you become desensitized to it. This is what the populace is. Yes. So the public and the private sectors get overwhelmed. Yes. The people get fired, and then you're shocked, And then, you know, once it becomes so normal,
Yes.
when they start doing things that aren't as shocking as what they first did when they
Yes.
first came in and
Yes.
overwhelmed you,
Mhm.
you now be like, well, at least it's not as bad as that, or you just get completely desensitized to it. So it's meant to defeat the opposition, the opposing
Yes.
thoughts, the
Yes.
opposing ideologies, and the opposing parties. And it is working because the Democrat Party is so damn incompetent all the time. All of the time. 100% of the time, they're incompetent. So it is working, and it's one of those things to where the only thing you can do is actually just try to be aware of it so that you don't let it defeat you, you know?
Right. So one of the things that they said that they were going to do, and none of this, to be honest with you, guys, what is the surprise? He said he gonna do this. You know what I mean? Like what? Right? This is exactly what they said that they were going to do. What is the surprise?
I think
So
maybe
they
a lot of
said
people
within the
didn't
first
really
90
know.
days, they were going to do things so egregious
Yeah.
and so shocking and
Yeah.
so appalling
Yeah.
that we would be desensitized to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It would become our normal.
Yeah.
Right? So within these first 90 days, there's going to be stuff that goes on that's going to melt our minds. But will it really though?
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of us already was desensitized to him a long time ago.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Mary made a good point, and so we know what it is. We're going to discuss how does it impact us, right? How does it impact us?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna touch base on that, and then I'm gonna let you tell the political side of it. I'm
Okay.
going to tell. I'm the emotional one,
Yeah.
and he's the political one. So, one of the things that we want to make sure that we do every show is that we tell little small things that we can do to create change.
Yeah.
Right? And it may be something very small, but small changes, make waves, right? So, Mary, she says all these boycotts, what do you suggest? The companies are being forced to end DEI, or are they? Not right now, Mary. They're not being forced, but as he said, we're telling you right now, we coming for you, so just fall in line. And they a lot of them have fallen in line. So my daughter, everybody was doing a little bit of research for me on this, and I appreciate it. So my daughter sent a list of companies. I'm gonna tell it right now before people start tuning out.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh, you got that?
I have it as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
So
it is, yeah.
so companies that are committed to DEI so far: it's Costco, Meyer, Kroger, Giant Eagle,
No, I think it's
Giant Grocery, Ben and Jerry's, which always Ben and Jerry's, they're expensive, but they always be about that.
Life, yeah.
Ben and Jerry's be like, what? Macy's, Ulta, Old Navy, Nordstrom's, TJ Maxx, Dollar Tree, Walgreens, Wegmans. Do you have more? Because I can't. Is it Cinnabon, Jamba, Auntie Anne's,
Yeah.
Hollister's? These are some of the places that are standing firm so far. Some of the places that have crumbled. Target was one of the first. They was just like, we done.
Yeah.
Target was out. Walmart, they don't care. You know what I mean? And here's the thing. Are we really, that's one of the things. Are we going to stop going to Target? Right? Because if we're not going to try to make these little changes, then what? Then what does it even mean? You know what I mean? Can you not go shop at Target? Are you going to not? Because unless we hit these people in their wallets, it don't even matter. Facebook fell off really quick, which here I am. Then what else? It was Facebook, X, Walmart, Target. Those are some of the ones that just crumpled really fast. And Tractor Supply, they fell off really quick. So I'm going to be on my page, and I'm going to be posting to people who have fell off and said that they weren't going to DEI programs anymore. But what they are saying is that they're going to get rid of the the uh, the acronyms. They're going to get rid of the name DEI, but they're
They're just
not
going
going
to
to get
rebrand.
rid. They're going to rebrand.
That's what they're
That
doing.
is what some of them are saying. They're just like, fine, if you don't want us to say DEI, we won't say DEI. But it's not that they don't want you to say
Exactly.
DEI. They don't want you to do none of the things that
Exactly.
I said
Exactly.
in here, which I will
So you
post on
can
my page.
you can rebrand all day long, but if they're telling you that you can't talk about systemic racism, that you can't honor Black history, you can't teach AP or African American studies in Florida. You know what I mean? These are things that it doesn't matter if you rebrand it and you call the class something different if the curriculum of the class is banned. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter. You can rebrand all day long. So yeah, you raise a good point about the boycotts, and yes, you definitely should boycott certain businesses that are clearly either falling in line or were never with you. So yeah, do I want to eat at Chick-fil-A? Probably. But if Chick-fil-A come out and be like, yeah, we love what he did, I can't rock with you no more. It's just what it is.
And we can't make changes unless we're willing to make changes,
Exactly.
right? Because things that are uncomfortable for us, but I really love Target. Okay, well then fine.
Mm-hmm.
Then it is what it is,
Yeah.
right? So and until you get right back into the civil right moment of things where we're like, we listen, power to the people. Until we get back to that, you know what I mean? It really, what can we talk about, right? But I wanted to what did I say earlier? I wanted to get to what DEI is. What does that look like for us? For Black folk, it looks the same. Do you see what I mean? It looks the same to us because I'm gonna keep it 100. He used to put in applications, Daquan. Tell him the story.
Well, basically, it's real simple. I used to use my name, Daquan Neal. I used to put it on applications, and I had to start changing my name on applications because I wasn't getting callbacks. So it was actually my mom's idea because at first I started switching it to Dominic, and I would get some callbacks, but then she had the idea to just kind of hyphenate it and cut that first little part off and just start applying as Nick Neal. And once I started applying with the same credentials, I remember one specifically where all I did is I just started going back into my resumes and change, like not my resumes, but my applications, and I would literally change nothing else except my first name, and I would just cut the Daquan off, and I would put Nick Neal, and I started getting callbacks. So it's just like it was already, you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing that is like, yeah, this was already a reality for us. The playing field was never really evened out. It was just that these civil rights were put in place that if you got caught discriminating, you're probably gonna get in trouble. Yes, now I have a civil suit if I can literally prove that you were discriminating against me, which in some cases, yeah, I did have the proof where I'm like, yeah, I didn't get a call back for 6 weeks when I applied as Daquan, but when I applied as Nick, I had a call back in 3 days. So yeah, I might have something going here. But at the same time, now that those protections are undone and those rollbacks are in place, now I wouldn't even be able to sue. But I do, while we're on the subject, I do want to touch base on not just what DEI is, but you have to explain it. Like for those people who are having trouble discussing what DEI is, why it's important. I want you to, if you're having an argument with somebody,
Hi, Nikki.
I want you to stop and take it one thing at a time, right? So this is the exercise I really want you to do. I want you to go one by one, acronym by acronym. I want you to ask the person if they are against it, if they are saying DEI getting removed is good. I want you to go back, start from scratch. I want you to go and let's talk about it. Diversity. What is diversity? So let's take it one at a time. Let's say diversity, the state of being diverse, variety, the practice or quality of including or involving people from a range of social or ethnic backgrounds and of different genders, sexual orientations, etc. So that's diversity. Just saying, hey, let's look at everybody.
This is what our workplace looks like.
That's all
this is what our workplace looks like.
If you go back and you say, hey, is diversity bad? If they say DEI bad, okay, is diversity bad? Now, and you take it just one at a time. If they say, well, no, diversity just is itself isn't bad. Okay, equity. Let's look at equity. Equity is the quality of being fair and impartial. That is what equity is. So if you can say that and say the quality of being impartial and fair, is that bad? If they say yes, then you don't need to argue anymore. If they say yes that any of these things on their own are bad, there is no talking to this person because they have already admitted that they are not really about fairness. They are not really about equality in that manner. So, and inclusion itself is self-explanatory. It is the act of including other people, the action or state of including or being included within a group or structure. So that's just all that is. It's the practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities. That is inclusion. So if you're saying that you want everybody to have opportunities, you would say, well, what's wrong with that? That's inclusion. So DEI is all good things put into one good thing. So that to me is just one of the things where if you're having an argument, and I only say this because I have seen a couple of people, I don't really engage in social media arguments. I used to do it. I don't do it no more because it takes a lot of energy.
Yes, stop doing that, y'all.
You never
Stop
really
doing
get
that.
your point fully
Stop doing it.
across. And a lot of people have gotten really good at cycling through talking points of their side. And this is a both sides thing, but it's especially egregious on the right wing side because they get a talking point and they go. They just go.
Yes.
They're like, I heard this thing from Fox News, therefore here you go.
Yes.
I don't care which DEI means black people who are unqualified in welfare. That means they're going to get the job over me. That's what they heard, which means that's what they're going to say to you. So that's to them. But if you can break down the argument in that way, maybe you can make some ground. But this is just me trying to give you a pro tip. If you are finding yourself having those arguments and those conversations, just try to take that and take it piece by piece. And if you can really say, are these things actually bad then? What are you saying is bad? Because these are things that you should want diversity. You should want inclusion.
No, they don't want that if it means that they are not superior.
Exactly. Now, if
you're not allowed to mention that.
And this is for the people who are arguing with maybe a family member, a friend, and they're trying to maybe unbrainwash them from the idea. Remember I told you where you saying they don't know what woke is? So if you're explaining them what woke is and they say, well that
woke has been turned into
exactly.
It's been demonized.
If you say DEI but you don't know what those acronyms mean,
oh, that's a good point.
You know what I mean? Or if you just think that you're all just about hey, let's just get everybody and they're unqualified, and you explain it to them, then you might be able to make some progress. It's just the thing for me.
We now are fighting against the government when it comes to how people of color are perceived and how the gay community is perceived and how people of different backgrounds are perceived, because even on their website they say what you just said. Equity,
yes,
diversity, and inclusion is racism in the federal government. On their website, on the federal government's website, they are now teaching that if a company teaches about diversity, equity, and inclusion, they're racist. So when we teach about racism,
we're being racist.
We're racist. Because somehow white men are the victim. Now I'm not coming down on all y'all white men, but I am saying that there is a problem with a lot of the white men, because this goes back to white men, because white women, you know what I mean? Like this includes y'all too.
White women were the first DEI hires. So
they were. But a lot of them even didn't have to be the first DEI hires because they were married to the white men.
But they were still DEI hires.
But you're not allowed to call that privilege, though. It is a privilege.
Yeah.
It is absolutely a privilege, but you can't say that in the workplace, right? So, Mary, you're quite welcome. Nikki, this is exactly we can't talk about that today because we're going to stick to the DEI, but I am going to read your point because it's true. I'm seeing a bigger picture. She said there's definitely one about white women having more babies and staying at home and submitting to their man. There's other things too, but that's a big one. Their numbers been on a steady decline. They can't say abortion is only illegal for certain races, so they know their women benefit more than anyone else. So what I'm going to say is that, as I do believe, because it is statistically known that the low income workforce is declining. They are running out of people to work for
Yeah.
low wage jobs.
Yeah.
That is data that is
Yeah.
known.
Which led to the influx of illegal immigrant labor.
Correct. Which they really need and want here, but he's got to do this. We can't discuss all of that. We can't unpack it out because there's just so much to unpack.
It's its own show.
It's its own show. But yes, I agree with you on that, Nikki, that again, but you're not allowed to talk about that, Nikki, because you will get fired because you're a racist.
Yeah,
if you say
according to what they have set up, yeah.
So you got white men who went in here and undid, and not just undid, they rolled back diversity, what he said.
Yeah.
Equity and inclusion programs. They did away with them. Now, what we gotta say to ourselves, I spoke to some women in corporate America who said that these programs were beneficial. Again, what I was talking about earlier is that companies started bringing on these programs because they found that when they brought in more diverse people of different backgrounds, they were able to reach out to other communities.
Yes.
Right? So they started seeing that they were making more profit.
Yeah.
So then DEI became like slavery, where it was like, oh, we're gonna use this. You know what I mean? Like, we want DEI now too because we could see it could be profitable. I'm not saying that all companies did that, but a lot of them were just, like, we're going to use it because we can make more profit.
Yeah.
So the ones that are not backpedaling yet are the ones that I'm going to say are really true to diversity and equity and still hiring us, even if your name is Shaquita.
Yeah.
Even if your name is Muhammad, and not get your application thrown away, because even with DEI, they were still throwing applications away.
Yeah.
They were still not doing callbacks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what I mean by this is normal for us. But however, we did see an elevation of bringing us in and getting more CEO and manager positions with these, and seeing them elevating women and minority people into elevated positions, which bothered white men and white women, because they felt like you're taking our jobs. You're taking our jobs from us because, as Daquan said earlier, you feel like when you hear DEI hire, and I see all of the jokes and all of the memes where they're just like, oh, the DEI hires, DEI hires are going to replace the immigrants who are getting, the illegals who are getting shipped out of here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which means you're saying that we're low wage workers, like we are not educated, like he said.
Yeah.
When you hear DEI, you immediately don't think that I just got hired on because you guys were not hiring us. You didn't let us go to your bathrooms. You didn't let us drink out of your water fountains. You know what I mean? You didn't let us go to your schools. When we did get to come to your schools, we had to have the National Guard, come with us, and you were spitting on the kids coming into the schools.
Yeah.
So that is why DEI had to start, because you wouldn't let us in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now you're saying this is racist because originally y'all was racist and wouldn't even let us work for you. You wouldn't even give us the job to begin with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now we're racist that we point that out, and now we're woke because we're pointing these type of things out.
Yeah.
So,
it started that way. It did. I mean, they started that argument, even like I always bring back the Florida thing, because when they started trying to get rid of African American studies in Florida, and they succeeded, and it was because the notion of them saying, we don't want to teach white kids that they are oppressors and black kids that they're oppressed. And it's like, that's not it. So they started with critical race theory, and then it expanded into other African American studies. So it was just like, you have this movement that was basically targeting the education of black history, and they were saying, we are going to prioritize white kids' comfort over teaching accurate history. So it's and the thing about
that within itself is privilege.
But this is my thing, right? They didn't give, they didn't care. They didn't care at all about black children and Native American children's discomfort about learning about slavery and the Trail of Tears. But as soon as white children's discomfort became any sort of anything, and it wasn't even the white children, it was the white parents of those children.
How dare you?
I saw something that said, it said the white women and white men who spat on Ruby Bridges trying to go to school are now trying to prevent their kids and grandkids from learning about how they spat on Ruby Bridges trying to go to school. And I was like, that's the embodiment of what exactly is going on. Oh my God,
right? That's it right there.
That's it. Because it's like they're now and now we have to learn about Ruby Bridges getting spat on. There was no hey, you know, we had to learn about being here in shackles. We had to learn about that. We knew about that. They taught about slavery
because that shows us as lower than them.
Yes,
you can learn about to be lower than them.
So we've known about it for a long time. But that was every 2 years they make a new slave movie. So we knew about our history of being slaves and never knew about us being kings or you know, anything foraging the land and survivors. We never knew about none of that. But we definitely were being taught about our history of being owned. And there was no prioritization of our comfort.
Well, no, you know? Because they had monuments to the people who fought to keep us enslaved.
So if you don't understand the notion that there is this prioritization for white comfort, then you are not fully paying attention to what is happening, because this entire movement against DEI only exists
for white comfort.
For the placating of comfort of white men specifically.
White men.
Because it's like that is the only group that has not benefited or actually been uplifted into a somewhat better position, not a superior position, but just a better position from not being forcibly ignored. You don't get to just blatantly ignore this person who wants to apply for this job or this home loan. You don't get to just blatantly do it, and now you are upset with because now you feel like that somehow takes some rights away from you. We make this example all the time about people who argue against LGBTQ marriage rights, where it's like, how does this person being able to do a thing and get married to somebody they love affect you in any way? Them getting the right to exercise a civil right does not take a right away from you. But we now have an administration that has bought into that notion, and now they're like,
and they're selling it.
They're selling it, and people are buying it.
Who won't believe the government? Who's not going to believe if you go onto the U.S. government's website and they're telling you that equity and inclusion is racist? Why wouldn't a uneducated or someone who's comfortable, why would they not believe that? It's on the United States government's website that's saying that it's racist to do inclusion programs. So that is now training white young people that, what are you talking about, equity and inclusion?
Yeah.
That's racist because you're taking my job.
Me.
You're taking something from me.
Yes. And that and what's crazy about that is that itself comes from a position of entitlement. That you felt like that job was entitled to you. And remember I told you about this, about how when people were talking about those Mexicans are coming here and taking their jobs, and it's like, that job didn't have your name on it. You know, but you felt entitled to say, this is my job. It's not yours. You didn't apply for it or anything. So you're like, but it's my job. It's me.
Well, they said because they're American, America first. But we're Americans too.
Right. And that's the whole thing, is that these could be legal immigrants, but you remember, and Trump just said this, I want to say 3 days ago on Sean Hannity. He said some of these guys, you can look at them and you can tell that they're bad news.
Jesus. So we literally listen.
So this is real. This is happening.
This is happening.
This is real. So explain it, and it's we're explaining it. Yeah, I know you get it. I know.
I'm the passionate one.
Yes, I know. And so we're explaining this because it is important to understand, and I'm going to go into some details briefly about something else, about how it impacts the public sector and the federal government, because if you want to explain how this impacts agencies and people that advocate on your behalf, I work in this field. It is my job to know how this impacts you as an Ohio citizen, not just as a United States citizen, but as an Ohio citizen. We have advocacy groups that will not be able to act and they will be terminated and they will have to find other employment. This is not just people who work for a agency that implements DEI initiatives. This is employees that do volunteer work with advocacy groups that
Yes.
go and promote diversity.
Yes.
If you are a government employee and you work in any sort of capacity, whether it is volunteer work, if you do advocacy that promotes diversity, equity, or inclusion, equality of any sense, you are subject to termination and will likely face termination in the coming future if this is implemented, which it already is. So this is federal employees who, and this is called an ERG. It is an employee resource group. That's where they get it from. The employee resource group, the ERG. And you go, and these are employees who might be belonging to some sort of marginalized group, and they get to advocate on the behalf of other people and get to network with other people belonging to that group and organize. It is federal union busting like we have never seen. You do not. It is marginalized groups who can unionize and unite under a banner of equality and promoting this diversity and more people to seek employment who are like them. They are busting those unions. That's what that is. So if you were belonging to a marginalized group, whether you're women, whether you're in a wheelchair, disabled, whether you have any sort of academic disability, if you have ADHD, if you are black, if you are gay, if you have any sort of marginalized community, if you belong to any sort of marginalized community and you advocate for that community, you work for the government in any capacity of any agency that is associated with the government, you are subject to termination. That is what's happening right now. And that is even if you yourself are part of the federal government and you are not associated with a part of the federal government that gets federal grant money for DEI initiatives, if you in your spare time are involved with an advocacy group or a union group that advocates for the collective resourcing of marginalized people, you are also subject to termination. You do not get to organize. That is what this is for. So just to explain how that is on a deeper level impacting you politically, it is fighting your ability to organize as a marginalized group.
So we have 10 minutes left of the show. We're going to do hour shows. We know a lot of you won't stay with us. Hopefully you guys will share this information. We're going to try to bring information to you guys each week about topics that are impacting us as a community. Mary, thank you so much. You're so amazing. Hi, Dev. I want to tell this what she just said. This is powerful. Mary said Claudia was hired, which is Mary's wife. She said Claudia was hired at OSU more than 30 years ago when DEI did not exist, but she was a DEI hire. Mm-hmm. They needed to diversify the department. Yeah. Right? These companies need to diversify. When all heads are firing on different cylinders, you're getting different. How is that not beneficial for a company? Yeah. Right? So she said she was equally qualified as the men, but without the call to diversity, she would never have been hired. Yeah. As a Hispanic woman, she still has to fight for equality in the workforce. Mm-hmm. And she's been doing this for 30 years. And she's brilliant. I know who she is. She says, and now she has grants coming from the NIH for her research. They require DEI component to grant applications. Oh, they got rid of that, Mary. They got rid of that. You can't do grants for DEI anymore. That's eliminated.
That was even before he put a pause on the federal funding.
Yes, they eliminated grants in any aspect. Oh, and they're getting rid of grant contracts for labor. For
part of their efforts of
they're getting rid of contracts. So if you were getting a contract based off of, and I know here in Ohio they have what's called the Minority Business Association, MBE, Minority Business Enterprise, and I might have to talk to someone from MBE because they are going to get rid of the contracts that are giving to Hispanic, Black women. You know what I mean? So I got to see how that's going to impact companies here in Ohio. So I'll be talking to someone about the MBE about that. But they are getting rid of grants, and it's now against the law to give someone a grant based off of race or whether or not you're a woman.
Yeah. And I'll explain how that affects your state budget here in a minute.
Okay. So she says DEI anything isn't being funded. If she doesn't get this grant, she will lose 5 PhD students. Wow. It is so effed up.
Yeah.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
It is indeed. I wish I would have finished reading it because she just said that, the grants are going away.
And that's so basically, and that's another thing is that with that funding that is gone, this will fall onto certain states to have to pick up that shortfall if they want to try to continue this against the wishes of the Trump administration, which means that they could face potential sanctions, they could face potential punishments. But if they wanted to, and this is the thing, is that we are now just about the governor is about to announce the state budget, what we are going to use to fund our government and our state, what we use to fund to pay our construction workers who build our roads, and what goes into the public schools, and what goes into our railroad system and our infrastructure. They're about to announce our budget for our state for the year. This is what is about to happen. So we work on this all the way up until June, and and after it is announced, we try to allocate those funds to the proper resources so that sex trafficking victims can get the resources that they need, and the food banks can get the resources that they need to continue to get food to hungry families who are underprivileged or underserved, so that firefighters and police forces can get adequate equipment. So this funding goes to your state. So if this funding for these grants is taken, and these are programs that we might need, then the state will be in a position where now those groups will try to get that funding from the state, which means that limited pool of funding from that state will now be stretched even thinner.
Got you.
You see what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of federal funding that kind of picks up where we are already struggling as a state to fund programs that are important for us. So now, with that funding taken, your state is now going to have to try to foot the bill for some of these things. And we don't got the money. I'm going to tell you that right now. We don't got it. We ain't got it, boss. So this is another way that this stuff affects you deeply. So this is the main thing that I would say to you. You ask what you can do.
We're gonna get to that real second. I know we got 5 minutes left. I'm gonna make this comment. This is for me being passionate. We had, we have had Black Wall Street burnt down, right? It seems like anytime minorities progress, there is some hateful white people who come in and take that, whether it be jealousy or whether it be because, that's jealousy. Why you got more than me? Why are you progressing?
Why do you have anything at all?
Why do you have? Yes, you're not in your space, in your place. You need to get back there where you couldn't even look me in the eye.
Yeah.
Now that's when you get this diversity, equity. We're gonna show you, boy.
Yeah.
This is a boy moment. We're gonna show you, gal.
Yeah.
This is a boy and a gal moment.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get back in your place, right? So this to me is, once again, this is a Black Wall Street moment where it's just like, you guys are accelerating. We're going to burn your ass down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is another moment where they're going to burn down what we already are trying to establish to try to just get. We're just trying to live, man.
This is 55
We're
years.
Just trying to live.
55 years of relative
We're not doing
progress.
nothing. We're not doing anything. But somehow it's bad for diversity and equity because somehow white people feel like we're taking something from you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm going to go as far as to say that black folk, what? I don't understand. Where to vote?
Black people who voted for him. It's like,
what is going on with your daughter, your son, your grandkids? What?
We gotta take a step back and we gotta figure out.
We'll talk about that next episode. But Lucinda, I'm gonna get to this, and then we're gonna give some key points of small things that we can do to make changes.
Yeah.
These shows will be an hour long. We don't want to keep people longer because we know y'all go to sleep.
Yeah.
So, there you go, Mary. Everybody who's watching, please chime in.
One of the things.
Everybody who's watching, I want for y'all to chime in. One thing that you think that we can do, and I'm gonna read them all.
Yeah.
Everybody who's watching, chime in one thing. Everybody on my son's stream, chime in one thing that you think that we can do.
I'll do it later. No.
So I'm gonna read Lucinda's comment real quick.
Also, let them know that, because for people who do see this after, we can come back and maybe do another brief live.
Yes, well, we will, because we're gonna bring back people who are experts in this field, right? Exactly. We just research, but we're gonna bring back.
Just make sure y'all know, even after the live ends, you can still comment. your questions or anything like that.
Please do.
So we can come back and we can
please share.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that you could do. Stop feeling like if you hit the share button, your computer is going to explode. You know what I mean? Like
it might. They got bad computers. It might be old.
So Lucinda said, "I'm so glad there are other Black folks that feel the way that I do." Yeah, I'm very passionate, girl. Mm-hmm. I will never spend money at any of those businesses again. Good. There you go.
That's two things. There we go.
There you go. Yeah. I stopped supporting businesses that back Blue Chick-fil-A openly after George Floyd. If we don't fight for our rights during this moment, we'll never be respected. Period. Period. Yeah. These people are saying we don't care about equity and inclusion, and we're just like, I'm gonna go shop there, boss. You know, come on, man. Yeah. So Mary, she said, one of the things that we could do, this is what we're gonna do. Bring y'all, come on, let's go, y'all, let's go. Yeah. Come on, let's go. Mary says, vote local. Period. Vote local. Judges, council, commissioners, Daquan Neal for future mayor because he will be running for office. Yeah. Let's go.
Mayor, I don't know, because some of the stuff they got to do is real, just kind of boo-boo. Like,
but he will be running, right?
I definitely be running for certain offices. So, ones that I feel I can actually be the most efficient when it comes to change.
That part.
So that's one of the things is like certain positions are more for the symbolism. Other positions are like you actually going to do some stuff, you know.
So not shopping, not spending your money with people you know
Boycotts.
Don't care about you. I'm not even gonna call it a boycott because we ain't really about that life for real. I'm just saying
because that's what it's supposed to be.
Voting, even if you feel like our vote don't count, we know we have a friend. Well, his friend, wonderful lady. What's her name?
Who?
My little honey.
Chloe. Oh yeah.
She won by what? How many votes? 6 votes. Your vote counts.
She ran for school board in Canal, Winchester, Ohio. And
6
votes. She won by 6 votes.
Your vote counts.
She was the only Black woman running in her race, and she won by 6 votes.
Your vote counts.
They did a recount 3 times because they was like, this is red. But I wasn't upset about the recount because when it's 6 votes off, you're like, we have to make sure that we didn't mess it up. Yes. But she was also running against all white men. So regardless of what the count was, it was gonna get recounted. But if you think that your vote don't count, I can send you her results of her election. I can send them to you right now.
Yes.
6 votes is what put that Black woman on the Canal Winchester School Board.
Stop listening to these people out here, especially these Black folk who be on there like, your vote don't count. You ain't part of the system. The system is rigged. Okay, that's why we're here again.
The system is biased, but what you gonna do?
How many people did not vote this election?
So Kamala lost over 11 million voters who had voted in the previous election.
Okay, so now we're not going to talk about that. We're going to do that in another show. How we're going to talk about that in another show. Mm-hmm. But however, so voting local, definitely, not boycotting, not spending money with people who don't like us, spending money with people who we do support,
right?
Small businesses, you know what I mean? People that support us, who love us, you know, as a community. Shop with them. Educating, right? Like he said, if people are wanting to question you about DEI, break it down to them in a way that they can learn. If they want to learn, simplify it.
Simplify your argument.
Stop arguing for your mental health with people that you can't change their mind.
And if you try to keep your arguments as personal and verbal, I do not recommend typing arguments on social media. It is the most ineffective way to have a conversation. It's the most ineffective way to get a point across. It is the most ineffective way to have a discussion, in my opinion. So I would say if you want to try to discuss with people who are close to you, friends, family, do it over the phone, do it in person, do it next time you see each other at a gathering. It doesn't matter where, but do it in person and make sure you come and you try to simplify the argument in ways that make it to where somebody who is getting fed talking points from a right-wing fed algorithm, they can see it from a different perspective, from one that is not one that is catered to make them comfortable. Right, you know?
Yes. Lucinda said boycott, walk out, make them feel what we mean. If they lose money, they'll have to go back to the table. Absolutely. They'll have to go back to the table because they don't want to give us a seat at the table. Okay? So those are ways. Also, I know what he was saying, you're not really allowed to organize. you can still educate. You can, another
Oh
thing
no,
is
that
make sure
I'm saying that, but go ahead. But I'm gonna chime in.
is make sure that we are educating our children, right? Make
Mhm.
sure that we know that they could be in positions of power, right?
Mhm.
Make sure that they know that they are allowed to work hard to get a seat at the table and to keep fighting to get that seat at the table. Make sure that our kids, because the schools aren't going to educate them properly, we have to make sure that we are educating and giving our kids extra knowledge. Tutor somebody, start small groups, even if it's only two of you who are collectively talking to people and saying, hey, do you know about this? So education is big, right? Even if it's a small group of people doing it, educate, um, uh, inform, research, build together, within community, vote. Those are small things that we can do.
My last thing that there's two things that I would say. One of the most important things that I would say, and this is for everybody. I don't care what position you are. Become engaged in politics. You have to. You cannot be disconnected from politics, but then have an opinion on politics. You can't. To me, you sound foolish when you do that. Because if you like the president, I hate when the president. What do you really know about the president's responsibilities? Can you name the three branches of government? Do you know who's running on or for local judge in your area? Because you might want to know that if your cousin got a warrant out. So you're gonna need to know these things because the politics affects you. You talk about grocery prices and egg prices all the time. You talk about these things because they affect you, and then you blame the government, but you don't do anything. You don't even vote. You don't even make yourself aware about what you can do to change your circumstances and about what you can do to change your elected leaders. So you can become engaged in politics, so you can learn a little bit more about politics. Just be more engaged. Engage a little bit more with political material and learn what you can or what you're comfortable with. It doesn't have to be everything.
Even if it has to come here to get it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And vote, like Mary said, vote. Voting is so fundamental. It is so important. If they tell you that your vote doesn't count, they are acting in your worst interest.
Well, that's because they don't want you to think your vote counts.
I don't care who told you that. I don't care how much you trust them. If they tell you that your vote don't count, they either don't know what they're talking about or they are working in not in your best interest. That's the only two possibilities that is, because I can promise you, I can attest to the fact that your vote matters and your vote counts, and they count them bad boys again and again. Because that is one thing, and that's why if voting didn't matter, they wouldn't try to disenfranchise you. They wouldn't try to stop felons from voting and then lock black men up so they don't have the power to vote. They would not disincentivize you from voting and make it to where you cannot organize to do carpooling to go vote. They wouldn't make it illegal for you to hand out water to people waiting in line to vote. So they would not make it difficult for you to vote if your vote did not count. Stop listening to stupid people tell you that your vote does not count. It does. I promise you it does. So, and the last thing I will say, organize.
Yes.
Because
organize.
I am saying they are making it difficult to organize. So just like when they made it difficult or near impossible for us to vote, we did it anyway.
Yes.
So if they're saying it's difficult, if they're making it difficult to organize, you do it anyway.
Even if it's 5 of us, we'll join you. Do you know what I mean? Like, so if each one of us, we get 2 people. Let's start small. We get 2 people registered to vote. You know what I mean? Because we definitely want to get in these primaries.
Right.
For real. Because one thing that I'll tell you is Donald Trump never stopped. We're talking about, we're tired. We don't want to do this no more. Donald Trump never stopped. His followers never stopped. They had signs in their yard for 4 years. And we ready to give up.
They was with it for 4 years.
4 years. They fought. They was at rallies for 4 years.
4 years this man rallied.
For 4 years. We got to start right now.
If nothing, I respect the hustle.
Yes. We got to start right now. What are we waiting on? What are we waiting on? Who are we voting for? That's huge. Who are we voting for? We need to know, because for 4 years he was at it for 4 years. His supporters was at it for 4 years.
Yeah.
What are we gonna wait for?
Yeah.
The last year? You know what I mean? Yeah. So when we say organize, let's get out here in these primaries and try to get it to where we can at least combat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. That it's all Republicans. This is why this is going to be another show. I'm sorry, we like 110 in. This is why a lot of people say Republicans, which is supposed to be the conservative party and a party of God and Christ.
Mhm.
But one thing is, this is why we always say the Republican Party is racist, right?
Yeah.
Is because it's like you guys are doing things like this that make it harder for anybody that doesn't look like you.
Yeah.
Anybody that doesn't look like you.
Yeah.
So that we're gonna wrap.
I'll leave off with one last thing,
Yes,
because
okay.
it's very important. So about
Yes.
the organizing thing, if you find yourself in a position where you do not know how to organize, you have to contact your local elected leaders.
Okay.
We have access to so many advocacy groups. So many. I'm talking Coalition on Homelessness and Housing, Akron Food Bank. I'm talking mental health organizations, sex trafficking victims. We have resources on top of resources on top of resources that most constituents do not know about. Part of, I want to say 90% of my job is getting constituents in touch with resources that they did not know that they had.
Okay.
This includes organizations and advocacy groups
Okay.
that work on the behalf of citizens, and they get state funding, government funding, or they are volunteer groups. They are nonprofits.
I wonder if are they going to get rid of that? Are they going to get rid of like the LGBTQ? Are they going to get rid of their funding?
Not necessarily. It depends. If they get federal funding, yes. And anybody who is part of those organizations that work for a federal agency and you are part of that organization or advocacy group, you're subject to termination. That's what I was going back to.
Oh.
So even if you yourself do not work for a federal agency that receives federal government funding and promotes DEI, if you are part of an advocacy group and you work
that
for the federal
can scare
government,
people.
that will, I promise you, if you want to do a little bit of research on this, just look a little bit for that. There are people who are right now putting their stories out who are trying to put anonymous stories out because they were afraid for retaliation. These are LGBTQ, Black people,
they want to shut us up for real.
Who are trying to scrub their history of advocacy because they are so afraid of their position.
They did say that they would get onto your social media page and see what your background is.
Yes.
We're going to have another show on this because this is a big topic.
Organize, and that does not just mean going to vote. That means getting with people who are advocating on your behalf. And if you don't know who that is, that's what we're here for. Call your local state senator, your local representative, your congressperson, your mayor, any person who is an elected official of yours. That is one Google search away, and you can find an advocacy group or organization that you can organize with.
This is so shady, but people will stay on a social media post and watch people talk about gossip about, you know what I mean, who punched who in the face, and you know what I mean, who's messing with whose wife. But when we're sitting here talking about how we can elevate and how things impact us in our community, you know what I mean? It's just like, nah, I don't really want to hear about that. You know what I mean? So anyway, that was just in my head, and I'm gonna say what I said. I said what I said.
Thinking is hard.
So because I be watching all of these little posts about, oh, the rapper punched this other rapper in the face,
but
and then
come on, it's brain rot.
All right. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us. And we hope if you got any more questions about this DEI thing going on, we are going to look a little bit more into it. We're going to bring some experts on, some people in human resources, some people in corporate America, so you can hear their take on it. We're going to be bringing you guys some information, so at least we can feed you, because we're doing our little small part. Okay.
And we're here to answer the questions that
if you got questions.
Please ask away.
Please share.
You
know what I mean? And it's not because we're just like, we want to be famous.
Well, no,
I
genuinely just want to shed light on something that seems like it's confusing a lot of people.
Yes.
You know, and that if that's,
people are scared.
It doesn't matter if we have 4 people who we get to change their opinion, because those 4 people now have an enlightened perspective that they can share with others.
They can share,
and it changes people.
Now you know. You know.
Yeah. That's
right
really
now you know. And if you guys have any other questions, you can go on to congress.gov. So you can go onto their website and they will spell out everything about what this is. Oh, I'm sorry. Congress.gov. And this is called the Dismantle DEI. It's the Dismantle DEI. So if you guys have any more questions, go on there, and this will answer all of your questions about, I think it was like 19 pages long, and it'll spell out everything and how it impacts the federal government right now. It's not in the private sector yet, but but you know
that it's planning to move on to the private sector.
All right, sorry, this one a little longer, but
just
it was important.
But we're good.
We will be back next week. We may touch DEI, or he might have done something ignorant that we had to come back
Yeah.
tomorrow.
We would have had to touch base on that federal stuff. That we wouldn't have been able to come back to this because that would have been
yes,
yeah.
But we will be coming back for little, 5-minute little segments on just things that's on our mind. So just stay
It
tuned to
won't
the
be 5
channel.
minutes. So.
It won't, because we don't know how to talk for 5 minutes, because it was going to be over an hour.
If you're
15
talking about
minutes later.
something of substance, you can't really put it in that window.
You can't. So, and I'm not going to feel bad about this. I'm not going to apologize. You know what I mean?
You should.
So, but thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any questions, put them in. Even though it's not live, we will still come back and we will answer the questions.
Yeah.
And we will see you next week. We'll either be talking about this, or we'll be giving you information. If there's something that you want us to talk about and research, he does work in the State House.
Yeah.
And I will research whatever, and I will go seek, whoever I need to get that knowledge to try to bring them to the show.
Yeah.
So we can sort things out in our community. It's the least that we could do. We will see you next week. I'm Tasha Neal Harris.
Oh, I'm Daquan Neal.
And if you got any questions, please leave them in the comment box. We love you.
Later. I'm gonna hang out with you guys for a little while. So if you didn't know, if you're kind of hopping in and out, Kimberly, I'm hanging out for a little bit longer. I'll probably stick around for another 30 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer depending on what's going on. But hopefully my whole goal is I can stick around with you guys, since a lot of the attention was paid to the Facebook chat for my mom's stream. I want to just kind of hang out with you guys and be able to be here to answer your guys' questions if you have them. People are popping in and out. So if you happen to be popping in here a little later and you have some questions about what's going on with this stuff, what we're talking about, we've been here for a little while, just kind of answering questions and explaining what we're doing. So I just want to stick around, answer questions that you guys might have. I typically have a lot of lurkers in my chat, which is just people who kind of hang out and watch and just vibe. But something like this is one that I really do want you guys to try to engage with. If you don't have any questions, that's okay. But I'm just going to hang out with you guys and just answer any questions that you might have for the time being. And if you don't have any questions, we'll wrap it up sooner rather than later. But
so one of the things that Kimmy said, he said, Kimmy, the BTS Army, I am learning by listening. And I just noticed that message and I loved it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that comment because it said I'm learning by listening. Yeah. And it's
a very simple yet profound
statement. That is really big right now. Yeah. Right? Because right now what you have is you have a whole bunch of arguments. You have a whole bunch of, I'm right, you're wrong, and there's kind of like no middle ground. It's very tribal. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's very, Patriots versus the Cowboys. And you have someone who's coming on here who's saying, I'm learning by listening. Yeah. The fact that people are willing to listen is huge. Yeah. And I do feel like I have said some things that people could see as being offensive, but unfortunately, I can't worry about the people that I'm talking about's feelings, right? Because they're not worried about ours. And I really would not respond this way to DEI and the people who have created it if they weren't continuously tacking the progress of people who are underserved. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then when we mention,
it's not just the one thing. You've been consistently going after anything that tries to help marginalized communities in any way. Yes. And it's been such a long-standing effort.
It's been a long road. It's tiring. This has been going on. You know what I mean? People are like, this was a long time ago, and I'm not going to pay for the sins of our, my parents. But this is still going on right now. If you're one of the people who believe that this is right, you are a part of what we're talking about. Yeah. You know what I mean? So the fact that, you are willing to sit and listen is a big deal. It's a big deal for me. It is. And it means a lot. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because you're sitting here and you're willing to hear how this hurts us. Yeah. You know what I mean? How this has been hurting us. Now, here's part of the problem. You got a lot of people who don't care, who actually think that it is funny. It humors them. You know what I mean? Like, because they don't care nothing about us.
Well, yeah, I mean, and a lot of people kind of have that perspective of, this doesn't really affect me. And unfortunately, there will be a ton of people who, like I said, either don't know what this is and how it impacts them. So those are people who are difficult to reach. You may never reach them. They're
Mm-hmm.
that disconnected from a lot of social issues in the first place.
Yeah.
Um, but what's frustrating me about a lot of those individuals that, from my experience, those are the type of people who have the most opinions. They're the
Mm.
ones who have the most to say about a subject matter that they know the least amount about, or they're the least engaged with. And the
Mm-hmm.
only thing that they have learned from it is a couple of TikTok clips or some Facebook memes.
Yeah.
And those are the people who frustrate me a lot, because it's like, well, are you even asking any questions about it, or have you already made up your mind and you're just confirming your bias with things that are catered to you? Or are you just so disconnected that you genuinely feel like nothing that anything the government does impacts you? Or are you truly so hopeless that you feel like, I'm just going to lay here and whatever the government does to me, it is what it is.
Yes, you have a lot of that. I
So
know a lot of people like that.
there's a lot of people who are kind of in those positions, and you're trying to reach different people along that spectrum.
Mm.
So I think that that's where my kind of
Yes,
thing
we
is.
have to
My
look at the
efforts are,
spectrums and see who is it that we're talking to, which
yeah,
would be everybody. You
yeah.
know what I mean?
You're
Who is
talking to
willing to
everybody.
listen?
Yes.
Yes,
Who's
who's
willing to
willing to
listen?
listen?
Well,
Yeah.
you kind of don't know. You don't really know, but you do know when you have those responses from people who come up and say, "Hey, what you said meant a lot to me." And we both have had that situation happen to us, where it's like, you may kind of be questioning, I wonder if anybody was listening to the message that we were saying. We put a lot of passion in it, and you might have those second guesses, and then somebody might come up and validate that by saying what you said, and it could only be literally just one person.
Literally
And
in your inbox, who was like, I really like that. I didn't
yeah,
want to say nothing on your page,
exactly.
but I wanted to make sure, and I
Exactly.
wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Even asking a question is a big deal.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It means a lot. So
It does.
that's why I put in the chat, ask your questions. If you're here and you're watching, I'll continue to just repeat that, because like I said, uh, the chat is moving around. A lot of people are popping in and out. This isn't my normal stream day. Like I said, if this was a Saturday, there probably would have been more people, and they probably would have stayed a little longer due to the fact that it's later on a Wednesday.
Oh yeah, we're super late.
Yeah,
but it won't be. It won't be like
days.
this in the future.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We'll probably do 7:30.
Yeah, seven's probably the
You know what I
7
mean?
or 7:30.
Yeah.
It depends. Like I said, one of the reasons why we were later than we were is because we were both busy today. I didn't get home from work until about 7:30, 7-ish, close to 7:30.
And I was doing my taxes.
She was doing her taxes, so really, it was just a lot. But at the same time, we really wanted to make sure we got this message out there.
This gets a little bit away from diversity and equity, and I just want to talk about the human parts of us, with coming back to do this show. He's been consistent in coming out here with you guys, but however, way more consistent than me. And this is something that I'm very passionate about, which is coming out and entertaining or educating or uplifting or inspiring. It's like who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So he held me. You always have to have an accountability person who will bring the best out of you, and who will continue to push you to what they know that you're capable of and what you said that you want to do.
Yeah.
He held me. When I tell you, when he walked through the door, because I came to him.
Yeah.
And I told him, you are the voice. People need to hear you. You are that something that people need to hear. Like his education, the way that he delivers his messages, his passion. You know what I mean? Like to me, I'm just, and it's not just because I'm his mom. It's just because it's just a feeling that I get with him.
This is my mom, by the way, for those of you who didn't.
Oh.
Some of these people are from that period of time, but some people are newer, so they don't know. Like I still get those comments all the time, and be like, "Is that your sister? Is that your little cousin?" Yeah. I consistently have to respond to that. So yes, for those of you who don't know, this is my mom, and so we've been doing
for a long time. But we took like a huge hiatus, and it really feels good to be back.
Yeah.
But you got to have your accountability person who pulls the best out of you.
Yeah.
And this one here You know what I mean? When I tell you, when he walked through the door, he was tired, he was late, still got on his clothes from work. He stood.
You know, I normally
Listen, he's Superman.
was.
He will come in here and change within like 30 seconds and be in the kitchen eating, right? He hasn't even eaten yet, which is rare for him because he be at the air fryer.
I be like, I'm telling you, I come home.
He be in his bed, comfy.
Boy, like my job is it's not physically exhausting, but it is mentally, and sometimes emotionally, but mostly mentally taxing.
Yes.
And you will come home and you'll be like, whoo, like,
yeah,
I don't know how much I got left in the tank.
To unwind.
But the first thing I gotta do, I gotta get comfortable.
Yes.
I want to be able to move my body to
yes.
So I will be out of this suit in a minute. So you're right.
So he literally came through the house, and when I tell you, he stood at the door. I was doing my taxes, and he was standing there like, I'm not moving. And as he stood there, he didn't come, he didn't change his clothes, he didn't go get the water. He stood right there. Now my tax guy, he was talking. So you try to get off the phone, but he like, hey, did you hear about the? He real cool.
Yeah.
But he just have you on the phone for a long time. So I'm sitting there for like 20 minutes. He sat right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was not going to take, and then he made sure that I worked out yesterday because I've been saying that I was going to go work out.
Yeah.
And he was just like, let's go, Mom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You said we was doing this show.
Like,
let's go. Let's get this done.
I was like, hey, you know where to find me.
So I went from DEI because diversity, equity, inclusion, but we also have to just look at accountability.
Oh,
because,
yeah.
Because one, this message was important to get out.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's so many people afraid, there's so many people confused. So we wanted to bring out what that looked like. What does it mean? What does it mean for you?
Yes.
We're still going to have to do another show to unwind it because this is still new.
Yes,
right?
And that's why I say the question answering part of this is so important, because the reason why we felt compelled to do this was because there was so much confusion around this topic.
Yes.
And there were so many questions around this topic. Hershey's, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for joining. I know that you're not from USA, so I can explain to you briefly what DEI is, and kind of like you'll understand, relatively what it means, but it is somewhat difficult coming from a foreign perspective, because especially in Canada, they don't have the same history of white supremacy as we do. So it may be a little bit different for their understanding, but it'll be pretty simple once I just break it down for you. But I can double back on.
And I'm going to be interested in hearing his perspective on DEI.
Yeah.
And whether it's even needed there, right?
True.
You know what I mean?
True.
So it's going to be interesting to hear from people from different places.
Yeah.
Which your stream has that.
Yeah, my audience is very diverse and very inclusive, and that's one thing. Nessa, this is one thing. Nessa's one of my mods in the chat, so she can block messages, she can get rid of spam, bots, and things of that nature. And one thing that we've always done is we fostered a very inclusive environment, and that is one thing that people know is about this chat.
Yes,
is that people come here, and everybody in this chat understands when you come here, this is a safe space. You come here, we have people who come here and they trauma dump, and they might be going through something. We've had people who come, they will be going through it, and they'll come in the chat and they'll have a community here that is inclusive, people from all over the planet. I have people from India, Korea, South America, all over the planet. And they come here and they have a community who they can share their thoughts with, they can share their culture with. I'm telling you, you learn so many things and so many perspectives. So that's one thing that I love, the fact that we have an environment here that, from a federal perspective, would be illegal.
Would be illegal.
That
was very good. This stream as a corporation would be illegal.
We would be fined every day for fostering this sort of environment.
$1,000 a day.
That is incorporating one another, our different cultures. And we talk about difficult topics and conversations. We bring these things up, and
you're not allowed to do that anymore.
Ask questions about those topics.
You're not allowed to do that anymore.
That's one of the things. So, Hershey's, to answer your question, about DEI. DEI simply is an acronym that stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we here in America have had a history of um, blockading and removing the ability for people, limiting the ability of people from different ethnic backgrounds, different able backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, and different gender and socioeconomic and sexual orientation backgrounds from pursuing certain opportunities, being included in certain organizations, having a seat at the table where rules and laws get put in place, having representation in not just media but in government representation.
Dang, I
So
should have had you say that on my show.
that's we had a lot that we really wanted to cover.
That was
so.
my fault. That was my fault because I just got so passionate and I just started rambling and
Well,
wasn't making
but
no
that's
sense.
the thing is that's why when it's your show, and it's your audience, this is something that they are coming to see. And yes, I am here to give a different perspective and add some data or a different
Man,
way
I
of
want to
analyzing
redo.
it. But yeah, but when it comes to my chat, this is sort of one thing that they're more familiar with. So it's just our different audiences.
I'm just hoping that my audience gained some insight and knowledge on it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But go ahead and keep explaining.
So yeah, and Kimberly, yeah, my mom loves BTS.
Oh heck yeah,
Kimberly, if you're not familiar, I have my BTS playlist. If you go to some of my older videos, me and my mom did reactions to BTS. So that's one of the things that like just like your mom, yeah. So her mom likes BTS as well.
Oh,
so yeah,
yeah.
So oh, that's the thing that we did. But
come and follow me,
yeah.
I got the fella.
We did a thing. I didn't actually get the post about that.
Holla back.
I still have the footage from when we did that. Yeah. Oh well, that's crazy. Then she must have seen some of our older videos. But to continue answering your question, Hershey's. Yeah, it's just my OBS.
Oh, okay.
And there we go. It just reconnected.
All right.
Sometimes it does that. It's sometimes an internet thing. Let me refresh this.
Your title was even better than mine.
Well, I just wanted to keep it simple, and just I just wanted to keep it simple and
I wrote all of these talking points down, and I just was
apologies. My stream skipped around a little bit, but we're good. So yeah, so that diversity, equity, inclusion. We had advocacy groups. We had organizations that were dedicated to educating people on why it is important to have a diverse workplace, why it's important to not limit people based off of their gender, sexual orientation, race, creed, or religion from being able to pursue these positions. And there were people who were attempting to hold corporations and organizations accountable if they were caught being discriminatory against groups of people. Okay, we're good. So that's what DEI is that they basically have just rolled back protections for people to be discriminated against again, because their argument was that
it's the script that is racist.
That it was racist against groups that weren't marginalized. So if you weren't belonging to a marginalized group, yeah, it said the stream. I'm sorry that the stream keeps lagging. I genuinely don't know why. I'm trying to explain some good stuff here.
YouTube. Isn't that something that you literally are teaching people? Isn't that about America? You teaching people that us teaching people about other races and cultures in our history is racist against. I cannot. Man.
Yeah. So sorry that the stream keeps skipping around. I don't know why it's doing that. I genuinely couldn't tell you. But that's one thing that we know about the stream is that it's not a G's Day stream if you don't have some technological differences. So but yeah, I apologize for that. So hopefully if you have any more questions about what DEI is, that? Yeah, because I'm gonna say it was yeah. If you have any more questions about that and you're confused, or if the stuff cut out while we were explaining it, feel free to ask me questions, because like I said, that's why I'm here, is to continue to try to shed some light on what this is, why it's important, and why it is a substantial issue that this is where it starts. This
Mm-hmm.
is where it has begun.
Mm-hmm.
So you can only imagine where it's going to go from here.
Yeah.
So if you have any more questions, like I said, and I'll also be posting this. Not sure. I don't think I'll be cutting anything out of this. I'll be posting this to the channel. It is almost 2 hours long, but honestly, I never have cared about limiting my time to stuff. You gonna watch it, you gonna watch it. If you ain't, you ain't.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll put it on my channel, and it will go up as a video, and maybe I'll take some clips out and put it as another video. But like I said, it's one of those things to where I just want to make sure that people have some idea of what's going on. That's really
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I just
Vanessa said they act like this came out of nowhere. Exactly, Vanessa. This.
yes. So they had a literal manifesto for it and was like, huh? What do you mean they're going to do the thing that they said they were going to do? And this is my thing about it, is that what frustrates me is that you can't trust this administration, though, because they lie about so much.
I know.
So
they
it's
literally
like
put that DEI is racist.
So
The
yes,
government is telling people that it's racist.
yes.
So who you think they're gonna believe? Me
But
and
this,
you?
but this is my thing, right? Is that
This not racist. The government said it is.
they're doing the things they said they were going to do, which means you can trust that when they say they're going to do something awful, you can trust that. But when they're trying to have plausible deniability, you can't trust it. So when they're trying to say, "Oh, well, we're just protecting people from the woke whatever," I didn't hear that well because okay, it is off that Trump is gonna. Yes, yes. So that's just all that was. I'm sorry that the audio was cutting out for you during the explanation. But yeah, it's just diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives to prevent people from being discriminated against in the workplace and organizations for whatever their social background is, their religious background, their gender ideology, their sexual orientation, or their disability, whatever it may be. You were not legally, there was civil rights put in place to where you were forbidden to do that. That has also been rolled back. So that is now something that if you were discriminated against, you now don't necessarily have a case in the court of law to sue for discrimination, because that protection that was in place for you to prevent you from being discriminated against
in the federal
has
government.
now been undone.
In the federal government.
In the federal government. And so when they're rolling that back, it also includes the termination of employees who have engaged with anything that can be determined or identified as DEI. So if you are a federal employee and you are part of an initiative that receives federal funding to promote diversity in the workplace in any sort of federal agency, your job is nearing its end. You will be looking at termination because that grant will be ended.
And they
are also firing people
in the government right now.
Yes, and they're firing people. Yes,
diversity and equity program.
So if you're part of diversity program or equity or inclusion program in the federal government, you are looking at termination. Strategy. Or if you are part of a federal agency that isn't even affiliated with diversity, equity, and inclusion, but you are part of any sort of advocacy group or organization that promotes inclusivity or diversity in any workplace, on social media, outside, if it is a volunteer group and you work for the federal government in any capacity, and they detect that you are involved in any sort of organizing of diversity, equity, and inclusion activities, then you can be terminated because you are engaging in what they would call discriminatory activities. So this is big
against people who discriminate.
Yes, this is potentially thousands of people who are looking at potentially being fired, and this is the thing. This is the setup, right? The groundwork has been laid for these people to be fired. What they told you they were going to do it. They said they were going to do it. They said they were going to fire these people. They were looking to fire up to 50,000 federal employees and replace them with Trump loyalists. Yes. They needed the grounds in order to do so. These are the grounds. Yes. They've laid them. They are saying if you are engaged in these practices, they are going to fire you. They are going to fire people who are they're going to basically consider you an at-will employee. They will not need to give you a reason. You have been participating in DEI activities, therefore you are terminated. That will be what is going on. So they're going to fire as many people that they need to replace them, not based off of people who are based on merit, but based on loyalty to the Trump administration. So they are going to replace these people, up to 50,000 of them, with Trump loyalists. So that way, anything that wants to be done within the federal government, regardless of what it is, if it's required funding for any sort of state. This is how you get people in positions that can prevent funding from going to blue states. By putting them in federal government positions, like they put Elon Musk in that federal position that is in charge of how much federal grant money he gets. Yeah. Elon Musk is in charge of the portion of the government that gives him federal money. This is how they set the board.
And then not to mention that blue states have to jump through hoops to get money.
Yes.
You got to lick
boots. He's already stated that he will condition federal funding for states like California. He is already saying that if he was president during those wildfires, they would not have gotten, that federal funding if they did not abide by the conditions that he set forth. That is not constitutional. That's not legal. That is authoritarian. That is dictator practices.
Yeah, exactly, Paul.
Sorry,
he said he was going to do it.
You're 100%. Literally, that's what we've been saying this whole time. Paul, you're 100% right. He said he would do it.
At the end of the day, we are where we are. You know what I mean?
And this is crazy because I heard from many people, and I understood it came from a place of bitterness, and it made me sad because I understood where they were coming from, but it still made me sad regardless. It's just that it was like, we're going to get what we asked for, and the ship goes down. We go down with it, but at least we can go down saying, I told you so. And I'm just like, that sucks so bad.
I gotta drown with
because you. I gotta drown with you. I don't get the door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't get to lay on the door. I gotta get the Jack treatment.
Yeah.
And at least as I'm sinking to the bottom of the frozen Atlantic, I can say I told you so on the way down. That doesn't make me feel all that good.
Yeah.
So it was a very morbid take. I understood it, but it kind of encapsulated that hopelessness that a lot of us felt after the election.
Still feel.
I felt it, but I think that since we kind of prepared ourselves for it, I told somebody a couple days ago, I was just like, you can prepare yourself for the avalanche, but when it hits you, it's still cold.
It felt like something died.
Oh yeah.
It felt like it literally
democracy.
felt like the death of democracy.
Because I mean,
it literally I think that we were numb for like a week.
Yeah, it was a feeling, and being down there, I can describe like the working down at the State House, especially in the Democratic caucus. It was a feeling that every single day felt like a funeral for at least 2 weeks. It felt like a funeral. And I mean, people were crying. And what sucked was with that loss came representatives who also lost because of that red shift. And there were people in there who were like, these are legislative aides, who probably worked just as hard as I did to get to this position. And now they are unemployed because their member was defeated by a right-wing extremist. And so now this is what's going on. On the state level, what just happened, this was just voted on the House floor. These are new House rules. This is what's happening in Ohio. What happened is the Republican supermajority has now voted to where now they can implement amendments and bills, and they can put them in committees without any notice. What this means is that when we're working on bills to put on the House floor and vote that get voted on and get passed by the governor, we send out notices to our constituents and let them know what bills are being worked on. You have access to all of the bills that are being worked on in your state. In your state government, all it is a quick Google search. You go to your website for your state legislature. You can pull it up. You can pull it up and you can look at whatever bill is related to. You can even type in. Keywords and see if they affect you. Child care, tax credits, anything. You can type that in. What they just did is they basically put it to where if I am an extremist and I want to ban black people from going into certain restaurants that I like, I can go into committee. I can go into the government oversight committee the day of committee, 5 minutes before that committee, and submit my piece of legislation. So now we who would combat that piece of legislation, that piece of legislation can go up for a vote that day.
Oh, wow.
So you can go. This is strategic. This was voted on when the House lost it became from a majority, a Republican majority, a Republican supermajority. So now basically anything that they want to do, we are now going to have to placate them to get anything, any crumbs off the table. So we are potentially looking at government benefits being slashed, Medicaid, Medicare, anything like that, child care. We're looking at tough times in Ohio alone, not federally, just Ohio. And now they're putting this in there to where now the reason why it's there is because now people cannot testify against these pieces of legislation if they don't know they exist. Advocacy groups cannot testify against these pieces of legislation and organize against these pieces of legislation and let people know, like you, hey, if we're trying to ban abortion in Ohio, if we're trying to ban marijuana use, which failed miserably here in Ohio because we voted to keep those protections in place in Ohio. Mm-hmm. If I want to put a piece of legislation that would have banned it and I want to keep you guys from knowing it, I can put it and submit it in committee without y'all ever knowing about it until it goes up for a vote. And it can pass out of committee before y'all ever find out. And the only way y'all find out about it is before it goes to the House floor for a vote. So now y'all have less time to organize, less time to learn about the bill. What's in the bill? We don't even get to read the bill. So how the heck are we going to notify our constituents about the bill?
And that passed?
Oh yeah. This is House rules. These are House rules. This is part of our decorum. This is part of what the speaker put in place.
Wow.
So this isn't even something that is a piece of legislation. These are House rules. And it passed unanimously. Every Democrat said no. What did that matter though? You know, so this is one of those things to where they knew what was going on in place. They knew what was happening.
Wow.
You know. So after they're fired, no replacement, he's reducing the size of government. So Paul, that's technically not what he's doing. He's not, his intention isn't to reduce the size of the government. What he wants to do is he wants to expand the powers of the federal government. And that's not an entirely the federal government, it's specifically the executive branch. So he doesn't want the federal government to expand. He wants the executive branch to expand into the federal government. So he wants to necessarily take power away from the legislative and the judicial branches of government, and he wants to make them more or less arms of the executive branch.
Where he could control.
Exactly. So it's not that he wants to reduce the size of government. They will be replaced.
That's what he's telling you.
I don't know if he's even telling people.
He is.
Okay.
He said that they're trying to decrease the size of the government because of spending.
Well, but that's the thing is that's not true because part of his plan is to replace those people with loyalists. Mm-hmm. So that you're not reducing the size of the government if you're simply firing these employees and replacing them with people. There is plans for them to be replaced. That's all that is. So reducing the size of the government could be a narrative that he's going with, but his intention is not to reduce the size of the government. It's to simply expand the size of the executive branch. So yeah, there won't be a change in the size of the federal government, but there will be a change in the size, scope, and power of the executive branch. That is why he is signing so many executive orders, because these things are unprecedented. The president typically doesn't have the authority to pardon 1,500 insurrectionists. These are people who committed crimes against the government. There should not be an ability for you to blanket pardon them. These people assaulted police officers and broke into federal buildings and stole government property. You know what I mean? One of these people walked out with a podium. You know what I mean? But he blanket pardoned them. That is an unprecedented use of presidential power. So it's a narrative that he may be running with, but it's not true. He wants to expand the size and scope and power of the executive branch of the federal government. Thank you so much for telling me about what you can do more to help. I was scared.
I know. When he said that, I was like, that's so adorable.
I appreciate
you, Hershey.
You being here and learning about, this is technically a foreign social studies class. Yeah. So I appreciate you just being here.
And we will keep fighting.
That's all we got. Yeah. We're in here for the fight. And I always know my ancestors and predecessors went through way more than I did. My ancestors and predecessors didn't have a place in government. So
yes, he does, Vanessa. Yes, he does want to be a dictator, plain and simple.
He's going to declare martial law. I think that there is the potential for him to declare martial law. He's already declared a state of emergency at the border. It's only time will tell where he goes with it.
Girl, he's gonna do anything and everything.
And that's the thing. He'll do what he feels he has to do. If he feels he needs to declare martial law,
He just gonna do.
He will
You
do
know
that.
why?
You can't put nothing past
Here's
the
the
guy.
sick part about it.
Yeah.
He's doing it just to see if he can.
Well,
He's just doing
is
it.
it just to see if he can?
Yes.
I think that was his previous administration. He wanted to test the waters. He was dipping his toe. Can I do that? No, I can't. Okay, but I'm gonna do it next time.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yes.
it's not even to see if he can. It doesn't matter if he can or can't. It's not a matter of can't. I'm going to do it.
Yes.
Stop me.
Yes.
You know, that's the thing.
Know,
so it's not seeing if I can do it. It's knowing I'm gonna do it. You ain't gonna do nothing about it, punk. It's Debo. We got Debo in the government. That's my bike, punk.
We got knocked the F out.
We got Debo in the government. He's literally Debo. That's my bike, punk.
Yeah,
you know, you want some too old man? That's what we got in the government.
He's kind of having fun with this. He's just like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
What are you?
Yeah.
Try me.
Try me.
You know what I mean? Come on, let's do it. And this is just so fun to him. He's just like, oh my God, I'm gonna do whatever the F I want to do. What y'all gonna do about it?
Yeah.
Come see me.
That's it.
And you know, here's the sad thing, is because his homies behind him, like, yeah, do something about it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, like, oh my God.
Him and his billionaire friend. He's got a billionaires club.
Well, they wanted him in there. They said we don't like him.
Yes.
They said the billionaire said we don't like him, but we need him in office.
Well, Elon Musk loves him. Elon Musk
didn't at first.
He didn't, but you know what I mean. The dude is a Nazi.
He said that the Democrats kept ignoring him. And because
you're a weird little dork. You are. I'm a nerdy dude, but he's a weird little dorky guy.
He is.
Like even for me, I play. Listen,
he's scummy.
I sat at the table playing Yu-Gi-Oh cards with the nerdy kids. Elon Musk was not invited to that party because you the type that would say some stuff that would have us all being like, you need mental evaluation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I you know, maybe the Democrat and the left leaning people wasn't really rocking with you, but you see why.
Wait, what? Vanessa, what?
I didn't even like.
I mean, you see, he already played Elon.
He kicked him out of the White House.
He did.
Yeah.
He's not even American.
Yeah, he's South African.
They kicked him out of the White House.
I haven't heard of the full story of him getting kicked out of the White House. But yeah, he got kicked out.
I knew that was coming because you can't have two. You can't have two narcissists in the room trying to run things.
He was supposed to have an office for himself in the West Wing. So he wasn't necessarily supposed to be like in the same office, but he was supposed to be in a different like just area entirely. But he was going to have his own department in his own part of the White House where he, you know.
You ain't heard the story yet?
I haven't heard the full story yet. Cause I was mainly focused on, my main focus first was on the DEI stuff, and then it was on the federal freeze. That was where a lot of my attention was being paid because
the federal freeze I had already. Because around, I want to say like 1:30, they had already rescinded it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I had found out about the rescission, you know, a little bit later. I think I found out about like 4.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was like, before that, they were kind of walking it back a little bit because they were first saying like things are going to be exempt. But when you made that announcement, people had difficulty accessing their Medicaid portals. So these are people, up to 70 million people were at risk. So this is what's happening is that, but this is part of another thing and that's another show because we're already at 2 hours. But so I will settle in. Yeah, I will settle in for myself, and we will touch base on certain things. But use this video as an ability to ask more questions and updates. Yeah, that's good that they have updates in real time. TikTok is good for getting information out. And feel free to send me a list of names, Nessa. That would be cool.
People who can do that is like crazy because I do not have the time of the day.
Well, some people
do it for they're like
if you're a content creator,
then that's what you do.
That's your thing. So I'm opposite.
I literally can because I stay and work from home, so I can literally be like, guess what happened, y'all?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I work from home.
It could be that simple. So I mean, it's up to you guys. But like I said, I'll have this as a video on my channel, but I will go through and I will pull some stuff out to make it its own video. Maybe I will just record a video sitting down explaining what DEI is just kind of briefly to give
Yeah,
people
we
that
can.
kind
I
of
think that
question
we. I
answer
think
kind of
that is
thing.
something that we really need to do. Just do like a little short video
Yeah,
and say this is what DEI is.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
But
yeah,
I do want to make sure that I come back next week
yeah,
with our guest.
yeah,
Um, I will have my Zoom working so
yeah,
we're able to bring them on because I think it's definitely important to hear from the people who work inside, especially our HR manager. She's going to be really important because she's the one who's going to be a part of who's hired and fired.
yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So we'll touch base with this. I may do another stream related to this, but like I said, I might make a post later on the channel and just ask you guys to ask me any questions that you have about what's going on in politics lately, what's going on with the Trump administration, what's going on about things that can impact you, just things that you guys want me to maybe talk about because, like I said, you guys know that I enjoy being able to have a back and forth with you guys and engage with you guys. It is always cool to be able to answer you guys' questions and deal with your guys' things as well as mine. So yeah, I will touch base with this a little bit later.
Thank you, Vanessa. Girl,
will,
I'm about to come over there and eat.
right. Yeah. I'm glad that we could be able to be here to try to calm your nerves because trust me,
We won't always be this. Still do fun things. We'll still do reviews of things. We'll still be doing other things.
But this is this.
But we will be doing this once a week because we feel like
you have to talk about.
You know what's
that
so,
literally the description of this video is I have to talk about.
Yes, because literally when Biden was in office, people be like, when you be like, I don't like Trump, they'll be like, well, Biden, I didn't like him either.
I didn't either.
You know what I mean?
I didn't either.
But I didn't feel like I had to constantly come out here and be like, guess what happened today?
Yeah.
He got rid of diversity and equity.
Guess what other constitutional attack that puts your rights at risk today? Yeah, I didn't like the fact that Biden had a terrible policy in Israel. Yeah, I didn't like the fact that
hated
Biden was an inactive president and didn't really engage with the public. Yeah,
there were issues I
had. He
went back to what presidents were, boring.
Yes, but the thing is, it's just like I'd much rather deal with the boring guy.
Me too.
Than
a WWE
literal dictator.
Yeah, a dictator who's WWE superstar.
I just can't fathom. It's like the president. It's just it's a lot. So like I said. Ask your questions away.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, ask your
questions away. I like your crowd.
My crowd is the best.
I love y'all. That is so.
My crowd is the best crowd.
I might have to come back and visit y'all more.
Yeah, but I tell you, like we fostered. It's been years. We've been together for a long time, and I've been on this platform for a long time. And I don't have to have a huge environment and a huge platform, but I have a platform that is loving and they always treat new people with respect. And one thing that my environment does is that they will remind people who join the chat to, hey, be cool, because sometimes we will have new people who don't know the environment here is not meant to be, toxic. And if you want that,
just come in and hang out.
This is a vibe. So thank you guys for always being here. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this stream up. Like I said, I will probably touch base on a video about this because it's very important. So looking forward to that, and hopefully you guys can ask your questions on that. And maybe I can take your questions and do another video answering all of those questions. So appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And I will see you guys later on. Peace out, everybody. Love you.